already walking. My boots echo on the polished concrete of the service tunnel. The air here is cool, smelling faintly of hay and something metallic, like old cages. My shift started hours ago, or maybe it just began. I can never tell. The brass key in my pocket feels heavy, a familiar weight against my thigh. It's a comfort, a small anchor in the quiet hum of the zoo at night. Up ahead, Marcus, another night guard, rounds the corner. He's whistling a tuneless melody, his flashlight beam cutting through the dimness. He nods at me, a quick, almost imperceptible dip of his head. His eyes are wide, unblinking, but his smile is too broad, too fixed. It doesn't quite reach his eyes. He passes without a word, his whistling fading into the distance. I watch him go, a prickle of unease starting low in my gut. He always talks. Always. Then I hear it. A low, guttural rumble. The lions. They are usually restless at this hour. A deep, powerful purr that vibrates through the ground. But this is different. This is a whimper. A sound I've never heard from them before. It's a sound of pure, unadulterated fear. It's coming from the direction of the reptile house, far across the park. The lions, kings of the jungle, are terrified. And they are terrified of something else. Something in the reptile house. I stop walking. The sound echoes, a chilling counterpoint to Marcus's distant, cheerful whistle. I force my boots forward, the polished concrete a cold comfort beneath me. The distant, terrified whimper of the lions still scrapes at my ears, a sound that shouldn't exist, especially not from the reptile house. My patrol route dictates I head towards the ventilation controls in Sector C, away from the impossible noise. But every instinct screams to turn, to investigate. The fluorescent lights above me begin to stutter, a rapid, frantic blinking that makes the shadows dance like frantic puppets. My own shadow stretches and shrinks, warping against the tunnel wall. The air, once cool, now feels thick, pressing in. I reach into my pocket, my fingers closing around the cold, familiar weight of the brass key. It's a small, solid thing in a world suddenly made of shifting light and misplaced fear. I should follow the rules. I always follow the rules. But the whimper, it sounds like it's coming from everywhere now. A low, desperate plea that vibrates through the soles of my boots. I stop again. My breath hitches. The flickering lights cast my face in stark, unsettling relief. My duty is to the routine. My duty is to the animals. But what if the routine is a mask? What if the rules are a trap? I stand there, caught between the known path and the terrifying unknown, the sound of the lions echoing in my bones. I need to observe. I need to understand what is happening before I can act. The silence between the flickers feels louder than any roar. I take a slow, deliberate breath. My hand tightens on the key. I will continue my patrol, but my eyes and ears will be open to everything. The flickering lights still danced, making the tunnel feel alive, but not in a good way. The lion's whimper was a dull ache now, a constant pressure behind my ears as I kept walking. My boots scuffing the concrete, my hand staying on the brass key in my pocket, its cold weight a small comfort. Up ahead, a small security monitor was mounted on the wall, usually showing a static feed of the empty staff lounge. But tonight, it showed a live feed of the corridor I was in. My own figure moving. I stopped in front of it, the screen old and grainy, but clear enough to see myself moving, yet my reflection was subtly off. My right arm, the one with the old scar just above the wrist, moved a fraction of a second before I willed it to. And when I blinked, the screen me blinked a moment later. I raised my left hand slowly, watching as the hand on the screen lifted, then paused, then lifted again. A jerky, unnatural motion that wasn't a lag, but a stutter. A brief, impossible independence. And when I lowered my hand, the screen-me's hand stayed up for another beat, then dropped too fast, almost snapping into place. I pressed my palm against the cool glass of the monitor, the image rippling, but the discrepancy remained, confirming it was real, not just my tired eyes playing tricks. A mirror reflecting a broken clock, showing time that wasn't mine, and the whimper of the lions seemed to intensify, a low thrum against the impossible image as I pulled my hand back. The cold key still clutched tight, knowing this wasn't just fear, but a tear in the fabric. I pull my hand from the monitor. The impossible image of my arm still burned into my vision. The lion's whimper is a low, constant hum now, a vibration in my bones. I reach for my radio, clipped to my belt, my fingers fumbling with the familiar plastic. My training kicks in, a desperate attempt to cling to protocol. I need to report this. I need to report something. I press the transmit button, the click reassuringly solid, but the static that answers isn't normal. It's too thick, too wet, like mud. Then, through the hiss, a voice. Not a human voice, not even a lion's roar, but a sound like tearing fabric, stretched thin and then ripped apart, followed by a faint, distorted echo of Marcus's whistle, played backward. My thumb slips from the button. I try again, tuning the dial, but the static only grows louder, morphing into a low, guttural growl that vibrates the radio in my hand. It's the sound of something hungry, not just an animal, but something ancient and vast. My breath hitches. This isn't a malfunction. This is a message. I glance at the emergency panel on the wall. Its red light, usually a beacon. I know the override codes by heart, drilled into me for years. I punch them in, my movements precise, automatic. The panel blinks, then displays a single mocking word, unauthorized. My heart sinks. The brass key in my pocket feels suddenly heavier, no longer a comfort, but a dead weight. My expertise, my training, my tools, they are all useless. I am utterly alone, and the world is laughing. The unauthorized message still flickered. My radio felt cold, dead, the growl echoing inside my head. I pushed off the wall, the impossible arm image a persistent burn. I needed to move, to find the reptile house, to understand the lion's fear. I turned down a familiar corridor, but the air was wrong. Too warm, smelling of damp earth and overripe fruit, not metallic. Lights hummed with an unfamiliar frequency, making my teeth ache. I walked for minutes, then recognized the same maintenance cart I'd passed earlier, its wheel jammed. I hadn't circled back. The corridor itself had folded, a trick of perspective that made my stomach lurch. My boots echoed on concrete that now felt strangely soft, spongy. The brass key in my pocket dug into my thigh. Up ahead, a door, usually leading to the staff break room, now opened onto a patch of overgrown jungle, humid air spilling out, thick with unknown blossoms. I didn't step through. I just watched the leaves sway, impossibly, in a non-existent breeze. Then, a voice, flat and distant, came from behind me. "Rule number 7, Tvero," Marcus said. His eyes rolled back, a wide, unblinking smile plastered on his face. "The path you choose is never the one you take." He blinked, the smile vanishing, his eyes clearing. "Just checking on the perimeter, Tvero. Everything quiet?" He didn't wait for an answer, turning and walking back the way he came, whistling. I watched him go, the impossible jungle door still open, the air around it shimmering. I reached out, my fingers brushing against the doorframe. It felt like old wood, but the grain shifted under my touch, flowing like water. The air here was thick, heavy, leaving a residue on my skin, like fine dust mixed with something oily. Stopping felt dangerous, like the world would solidify around me. I had to keep moving. I pulled my hand back from the shifting doorframe. The jungle air still clung to my skin, thick and oily. Marcus was gone, his whistle a faint memory. I didn't follow him. I couldn't. The path he chose was never the one I took. That rule echoed, cold and clear in my head. I turned, moving deeper into the corridor, away from the impossible green. My boots still felt strange on the spongy concrete. The brass key in my pocket pressed hard against my leg. A small, solid comfort. Up ahead, a door I'd never noticed before, tucked into a shadowed alcove. No number, no sign, just a plain, steel door. It wasn't locked. I pushed it open. Inside, the air was stale, thick with the smell of old paper and ozone. A single bare bulb hung from the ceiling, casting harsh shadows. This was a small, forgotten utility room, or maybe an old office. A metal desk stood against one wall, covered in dust. On it, a stack of faded blueprints. I picked one up. It wasn't a map of the zoo. It was a diagram of the service tunnels, but with impossible lines drawn in red. Lines that showed corridors folding in on themselves, rooms appearing and disappearing. There were handwritten notes in the margins, precise and clinical. Event 7, corridor fold, sector gamma, duration 14.3 minutes. Observed effect, disorientation, localized atmospheric shift. Another note in a different hand. Rule 7 validation. Subject T7 maintained course, observed anomaly. My breath hitched. Subject T7. That was me. The paper felt real, solid in my hands. The ink was dry. This wasn't a hallucination. This was a record. A plan. It was all laid out, cold and deliberate. The fear wasn't just for the lions anymore. It was for me. I was part of the diagram. I was an experiment. The blueprints, still in my hand, felt suddenly cold, then burning hot. The single bare bulb above me flickered, then died, plunging the utility room into near darkness. Only a faint, sickly green glow from the corridor outside seeped under the door. A low hum started, growing into a grinding roar that vibrated through the metal desk. The steel door behind me, which I had left ajar, slammed shut with a deafening clang, shaking the entire room. I dropped the blueprints, my heart hammering against my ribs. A section of the ceiling above the desk groaned, then cracked. Dust and small chunks of plaster raining down. I instinctively ducked, shielding my head. The brass key in my pocket vibrated violently against my thigh. A frantic pulse, burning hot through the fabric. I stumbled back, hitting the wall. The wall itself felt soft, yielding, like old rubber, then solidified again with a sickening thump. A vent on the far wall, rusted shut for decades, suddenly ripped open, spewing a thick, acrid smoke that stung my eyes and throat. I had to get out. I lunged for the door, my hand reaching for the handle. The floor beneath me tilted sharply, throwing me off balance. I scraped my arm against the rough concrete as I fell, a fresh, stinging line appearing on my skin. The door handle was gone, just a smooth, featureless steel plate where it should have been. The smooth steel plate where the door handle had been felt impossibly cold, then searing hot against my palm. The acrid smoke from the vent thickened, burning my lungs, making the air shimmer. I choked, stumbling back, my scraped arm throbbing with a dull ache that spread like ice through my veins. The grinding roar from the floor didn't stop. Instead, it warped, twisting into a chorus of distorted whispers, each one echoing Marcus's tuneless whistle, but stretched and slowed, like a broken record. The sickly green glow under the door pulsed, then began to breathe, expanding and contracting, casting impossible shadows that writhed on the walls. I pressed my back against the cold metal, my heart hammering, but the rhythm was wrong, too fast, then too slow, then skipping entirely. I could feel the brass key in my pocket, a frantic, burning pulse against my thigh, vibrating so violently it felt like it was trying to burrow through me. My vision blurred. The room seemed to tilt, not just the floor, but the entire space, twisting on an unseen axis. The walls rippled, like reflections on disturbed water, and for a moment I saw the service tunnel outside, then the reptile house, then nothing but a swirling void. I squeezed my eyes shut, but the images persisted, flashing behind my eyelids, a relentless, terrifying kaleidoscope of impossible places. When I opened them again, the room was smaller, the ceiling lower, pressing down. I was shrinking, or the room was growing. I couldn't tell. Paranoia clawed at my throat. I was not alone. The room was alive, and it was watching me. Waiting. The room settled. The walls stopped rippling, their dull gray surfaces now solid. The ceiling returned to its normal height, no longer pressing down. The sickly green glow under the door was gone, replaced by the faint, familiar hallway light. The grinding roar faded, replaced by the usual hum of the ventilation system. I pushed myself away from the cold metal, my scraped arm throbbing. It was a deep, persistent ache, a line of angry red welts where the smoke had burned me. A new scar. I looked at my hand. It felt too big, then too small, proportions shifting when I wasn't focusing. I flexed my fingers, trying to make it feel normal. The brass key in my pocket was still, no longer vibrating, but I felt its imprint, a phantom pressure against my thigh, a memory of its frantic pulse. I walked to the center of the room. The floor felt uneven, as if it sloped left, then right, even though my eyes said it was flat. The air still carried a faint, acrid scent, or maybe that was just in my head, a ghost of the smoke. I touched the desk. It felt solid, real. But the edges seemed to blur, just for a second, when I wasn't looking directly. A visual stutter. I knew the room was back to normal. Intellectually, I knew it. But my body didn't believe it. Every step felt like I was walking on a shifting deck, my balance off. Every breath felt shallow, as if the air was thinner. I was tired. So tired. The quiet hum of the zoo at night felt different now. It felt like a breath held, waiting. I was waiting too. I stood there, the room finally still. My scraped arm throbbed, a dull, persistent ache, the angry red welts a fresh map on my skin. The brass key in my pocket felt cold now, a dead weight against my thigh, no longer vibrating, just heavy. The air still tasted thin, like metal, a ghost of the smoke that had burned me. I looked around the room. It was normal. The desk was solid, the floor flat, the walls gray. But I knew better. This wasn't an incident. This wasn't a temporary madness that would pass. This was the way things were. The anomalies weren't random events, isolated moments of terror. They were the fabric of this place, woven into the very air, the very light, the very silence. They didn't stop. They just changed, shifted, waited for their moment to surface again. My awareness of them didn't make them go away, didn't give me any power. It only made me see them clearer. made me feel the constant, subtle pressure of their presence, like a hand pressed against my chest. The hum of the ventilation system, the quiet of the night zoo, they were all just a thin skin over something else, something permanent, something objective, something inescapable. I was just a part of its endless, shifting pattern now, watching the world unravel, one impossible detail at a time, knowing it would always put itself back together, only to break apart again.